Hi, my name is Nicole. Welcome to my channel, Travel to Money. In this video, I'll talk about my second home purchase in the US, why it wasn't going to work out as a short-term rental, what I did to make money on it instead, and why who you live next to matters. If you are new here, I have created this channel to help you learn about how to travel, adventure, and have fun on the road to financial independence. I have spent the last few years traveling the world. I paid off a house in Spain, plus I have worked smarter and harder to help me move toward financial independence. I truly believe that the road to financial freedom can and should be fun. I hope that you'll subscribe and join me on this journey, no matter where you are starting from. In the last video, I shared that I sold my first house, made a $40,000 profit, and was able to put a 20% down payment on a smaller house that I purchased for $106,000. I knew that the neighborhood was not exactly awesome, but I loved the house and decided to give it a go. There was no HOA, so there was one couple that was a neighbor with a lovely home on a good amount of property, and they had lived there for years. Across the street was an empty lot and an old abandoned house. The only neighbor directly next door had a home that was similar to mine. At first, everything seemed fine. The house was older, but had been remodeled with new floors, new paint, and was basically a great blank canvas. I moved some of my furniture from the previous house, sold a few things, upgraded a few appliances, and was ready to roll. I was initially planning on renting the second bedroom on Airbnb. When you rent a bedroom on Airbnb, it gives you the flexibility to only list it during times that you want to. This way, if you have company coming to town or just want a little time to yourself, you can block off certain dates. I personally also loved meeting so many new people from all over the world by renting out a bedroom in my previous house. This house was not far from a university, which would have made it a great spot for an Airbnb, except for something that turned out to be a big problem: the neighbor. In the house next door to mine, I had seen a woman coming and going in a nurse uniform. She seemed to have 2 children, and I would say hello in passing. She seemed pleasant and kind, although she stayed to herself. What I didn't know was that she had a significant other who would be living in the house most of the time and then traveling infrequently. As it turns out, this man had a problem with alcohol, and who knows what else. I would literally wake up in the morning to hear anything from Whitney Houston to hardcore rap music blaring loudly from a huge speaker that he would move to his front porch while drunk at 8:30 in the morning. After this happened twice, I knew that renting out the other bedroom on Airbnb would never work. Because of him, I would get terrible reviews. The only other option I had was to rent the room to a university student. I listed the room online through the Zillow rental manager and very quickly had several inquiries. I was honest in the listing about the state of the neighborhood. I'm a firm believer that it is always important to share the good news and the not so good news when you are selling or renting anything. First of all, it's important to have integrity. Secondly, if you are upfront and honest about a situation in a listing, they are likely to trust that you are being honest about everything else, and less likely to back out due to finding out something at a later time. I rented the room for $650 per month with a $300 deposit. My mortgage, including insurance and taxes, was $661 per month. So, having a roommate effectively wiped out my entire mortgage payment, and all I needed to cover for the house was the utilities, which were much less expensive in a smaller house. The rent comes to $7,800 per year. Could I afford to live without a roommate? Yes, but I also understand the value of investing that $650 every month. If you have an empty bedroom in your house and you were to rent it out for $650 per month, If you invest that $650 per month and it grows at just 10% interest every year, after 15 years, you would have almost $300,000 invested. After 20 years, you'd have almost $500,000 invested. That's half a retirement from just renting out a bedroom. Heck, for some people, $500,000 is enough to retire from. Think about this. If you are 25 years old and you buy a 3-bedroom house that you can afford with your salary, then you rent out both of the other 2 rooms for $650 each and invest that $1,300 every month. After 20 years, you would be retiring at 45 with $1 million in the bank. And that's without doing anything else. Anyway, I ended up interviewing a couple of roommates and found a university student to rent the room who would be a low maintenance and good fit. In this situation, I needed someone who would take care of the house for me while I was away because I tend to travel pretty often. It wasn't long after I purchased this home that I took a second job that provided on-site housing for me. I will be sharing a lot about that in the next video. But what this meant was that my roommate who was renting the one room for just $650 per month was really getting the entire house to herself because I was never there. I didn't really mind, but at this point the house was becoming something that I just didn't need. The next spring, my realtor and I decided to list the house for $129,000. This was the house I had just purchased about 6 months beforehand for $106,000. Once again, I decided to list the house fully furnished, and this time we had the perfect buyer for that. They offered $125,000 and we accepted. That means that the house sold for a profit of $19,000 after just over 6 months of owning it. Of course, after realtor fees and such, there wasn't a whole lot of profit left. Plus, I had spent a few $1,000s making improvements to the house. At this point, I just didn't want the responsibility of real estate with everything else I had going on, and I didn't want my own house anymore, except for the one in Spain. I had now landed myself with 2 house sales in less than a year that combined sold for $68,000 more than what I had purchased them for. Like I said, I had to put some money into these investments and make improvements, so it's not like I was walking away with a $68,000 check, but I definitely wasn't in the negative and was very happy with what I learned in the process. I'd also like to take a moment to talk about dealing with not so great neighbors. I learned quite a bit in the process of dealing with my noisy neighbor next door. I asked him to stop playing music several times. The first few times, he was kind of nice about it, but after that, things started to go downhill, unfortunately. We're also talking about someone who was drunk, so it's not like I was dealing with someone in their right mind. There was one time where he walked all the way up to me and got in my face. I'm not one to back down, but truthfully, I was scared. Since I no longer felt safe going up to him myself, I decided to call the police. Unfortunately, when the officer drove by, my neighbor walked out to him, handed him a $20 bill, and the officer drove off. Gotta love corruption. This made my fear much worse because if I couldn't count on the police to help me in a situation like that, what protection did I have? I had read the laws about sound, which are far more complicated than you might imagine. It is specific to certain decibels and all sorts of other things, and that was just for the city of DeLand, Florida. I believe I printed them out and left them on the neighbor's porch, with certain lines highlighted. For me, I never quite solved the problem of the neighbor. It brought a whole new challenge to the command, love thy neighbor as thyself. Love like this neighbor? How exactly? I'm just saying that it's not easy, and I probably failed at doing that very well at all. Well, in the next video, I'm going to share about the second job I took and what it meant to have 2 incomes, although neither of them passive. If you have learned something new today, or you just want to make my day, please like the video and subscribe to this channel, joining me on this adventure where travel and fun build financial freedom. I can't wait to see where your dreams will take you.